be right back to move it.
Doesn't exist. Massachusetts has such a thing, as you all know, it's expensive, it's inconvenient, it's difficult. I don't agree with it, but it's not impossible. It doesn't exist in New York.
Stop right there by the chair.
Thank you.
People who disagree with us say HR 38 creates a federal license. It doesn't create a federal license. It's real simple. It's elegantly simple. It says if you're legal to carry at home, you're legal everywhere else. That includes states like Vermont, Maine, New Hampshire, West Virginia that don't require licenses. Arizona, Alaska, all those residents can carry everywhere else.
We are going to keep that energy level up. As you know, this is a long day, folks, and we often save those hard hitters, those people that get your blood pumping. We save those for the second half of our program here. And our next speaker is just like that. He's overcome his shyness. He has gotten out there. He's done some great stuff in local media himself. And more importantly, he finally found his niche. And that is the Second Amendment. And as you know, if there's anything that we need, is no compromise Second Amendment advocacy. And that's what's going to be coming up on deck here next. But before that, I want to shine the light on a special somebody in the audience. Where is Peter and Bobby Newman? Oh, I see Bobby right here in a red hat in the front. Where'd Peter go? Where'd he escape to? There he is. I see him. Yeah, these two young lovebirds, they could have been off somewhere making love on the beach at the Cape or something. But here they are at our rally. I'd like everyone to put your hands together. 51 years of marriage is their anniversary here today. Last year they did the same thing. They put their plans for their 50th anniversary out to be at the 5th annual Flag Day rally. And we love having them every year. Bobby and Peter, congratulations. Now, last year was their 50th. The year before that, I'm out here wandering around, and then, I turn around and I bump into, this little angel with big green eyes looking back at me. And long story short, as I'm moping around doing my thing, and there's a big gaping hole in my life too. I met a young lady who just, she got me all stirred up. Didn't take too long. I was down on one knee asking her to marry me. And before you know it, we're off honeymooning. And I really, really have to thank my beautiful wife, Cindy, for putting up with me and allowing us to move forward with these celebrations. And not only that, but inspiring me to do so. So I got to thank my beautiful wife as well for helping this event be what it is. Now, next gentleman, he was supposed to be on my agenda last year, said yes, and then all of a sudden his wife, who loves him very much, bought him bear hunting tickets, and he missed. So I told him, I said, I'm gonna invite your wife up to speak from now on. I mean, that's how we'll get him here. My next guest, no compromise, Second Amendment advocate. All right, his idea of gun control is a tight pattern. He's right here in Massachusetts. This is one of the activists I told you folks. We get the big national guys out here because we want a lot of people at this event. Once you're here, I want you hooked up with people like our next speaker, Mr. Christopher Pinto from Massachusetts Gun Rights.
All right, we're in a new location here. I'm sorry I missed it last year. I was given a gift, a bear hunt in Canada. Did you get one? I did last year. I just drove 10 hours last night to be here today. Unfortunately, I didn't get one this past week, but it was quite an exciting hunt. If you want to hear about it, if you're a bear hunter or a hunter, I'll tell you about it later. So, I think the NSA gave part of my speech to Jared Yanis because he hit Trump. I was going to start off by saying the late, great Andrew Breitbart once said, "The truth is not hate speech. It's simply the truth." Now, Trump's going to do what he wants to do. He told the NRA he had our backs. They spent $50-something million supporting him, helping him get elected. Jared did a video, I think he referred to it in a speech a couple weeks ago, where he had Trump in his own words, saying things like, well, we'll take the guns first, and then we'll take care of that due process, that the inconvenient due process thing later. Thank you. Thank you. So I'll skip that part of my speech that I was going to do, and I'll just ask all the people who are wearing Trump shirts to realize the truth. It's not hate. Take that Trump hat, take a picture of it, go get Make America Constitutional Again up by the half track from Massey Campos. Send Trump a picture of your Make America Great Again shirt, the shirt or the hat, and say, I'm never wearing this again because of your attacks on due process and the Second Amendment. But here's what I'm going to wear in its place. Until you smarten up, Mr. Trump, we don't push back against our own side. We're never gonna protect anything. Trump has done great things for this country, but on the Second Amendment, he's betrayed us, and it's probably because in the end, he's a New York liberal. He's a businessman. He's done great things business-wise for this country, but he's still a New York liberal when it comes to guns. So, let me thank some people here because I'm always humbled to come and speak at these events because there's such great people here. First of all, I want to start with this guy, Dave. Yeah. Behind every great man is always a great woman. Cindy is his greatest supporter. Let's hear it for Cindy. The last time I was here, Dave was a single man, and now he's a married man, and look at him smiling. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you. Lynn Roberts, Jim McGrath, both on my board of Mass Gun Rights, great people. Jared Yanis is so over the top awesome that we just recently elected him to our board. There's a young lady here named Milana, who I am trying very hard to convince. Milena, sorry, I'm horrible with names, that's why I can't run for office. I'm trying to convince her very much to run for office as a local state rep. And if she does, we're going to need everybody here to support her financially, knocking doors, making phone calls. She may be running in a close district that she can flip. We don't win anything unless we start putting our people in office. Back in 2013 in Rhode Island, a bunch of Oath Keepers ran and got in office. Funny, Rhode Island's been declaring town sanctuaries against unconstitutional gun laws lately. Wouldn't it be nice if we could do that in Massachusetts? Take a town in Massachusetts and say, we're a sanctuary from unconstitutional gun laws. And the only way we do that is if somebody in this audience, somebody attending, decides, hey, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring. And we get them the information they need to run a successful campaign, and we get them in office. Many thanks to, I don't know if he left, Mr. Stephen Hall ran a great campaign against a woman. This is the trick that they all play on you. Ann Goby. Ann Goby shows up at all the sportsmen's dinners and says, I support you guys. And she files the same bill for 10 years in a row for Sunday hunting. She gets everyone to believe that she's on our side. Then she votes for bump stock bans. Then she votes for ERPO. She even voted for the awful I think the 2014, she was too scared to vote against that. She voted against the 2014 gun bill. They lied to you. In fact, when I was bear hunting this last week, there's a bunch of guys from Auburn Sportsman's Club up there. And they have shirts on that say Mass Hunter Education. On one shoulder, it says goal. And if you want to know what goal's motto of working, just go to Negotiating Rights Away. It tells you all the times the NRA has stabbed us in the back. All the bad gun laws we've had, they either came up with or supported. Okay? It says goal on one shoulder. On the other shoulder, it says Senator Michael Moore. He does the same. He gets his name on a shirt that says Hunter Education. Everyone thinks, oh, he supports our rights.
Yeah.
He doesn't. When it comes time to vote, he votes against them. Stephen Hall, guys like that, we need. Stephen, his opponent, Gobi, same thing. She votes for these bad bills. She needs to go. Craig Swindell, great man, helps out Dave, helps out mass gun rights. Whenever I call him, he's there. We don't do any of this stuff without guys like Craig. Not possible. Dan Munson. Where's Dan? Dan's here today. As soon as we have another board meeting, we're electing Dan Munson to the board. Dan Gannon at Lowell Gun Owners. You can find him online. He's awesome. These two guys know so much about gun laws that they post online. We've got to get them, writing more letters to the editors. We got to get them in charge of a team to write letters to the editor all the time. As you'll see in my speech, the left is trying to control the dialogue in the newspapers, and they're winning. Oath Keepers and 3%ers, thank you guys. You're always there for us. Doing security, whatever it is. We don't do any of this without you. The Daughters of Liberty, thank you so much. Of course, it's a Century Sportsman's Club for hosting us. We don't do anything without a place to do it. Okay? Bobby and Peter, they're awesome as well. They show up to everything. And for the new faces and everyone that came today, if we can all get one more person to come next year, this thing just keeps growing and growing. And Steve Tugas, I think, is gone as well. I haven't seen him in a bit. He always runs for office, puts his hat in the ring, and pushes back against them. This week is the 3rd anniversary of the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando. We all lost our AR and AK sales rights through FFLs because Maura Healey claimed that the reason that shooting happened was because of the availability of guns. I said it 2 years ago when I'm here, I'll say it again. Nothing could be further from the truth. If you Google for Omar Mateen transcript, you will find the transcript between the police negotiator and the Pulse nightclub shooter. He was angry because Obama had drone bombing program in Syria and Iraq. Obama was actually bombing the enemies of the Muslim Brotherhood because he wanted his boys to have a head up on that fight for Islam, who would control Islam. And they were hitting innocent women and children. Don't believe me? Google it. It's eerie when you read it. Those people at Pulse nightclub were not killed because they were gay. They were killed because they were Americans in retaliation for what Obama did.
Yes. Wow. Yes. Yes.
And people need to know that. Now, there's a danger coming at us real hard. Real hard. I realize that, and I'm going to ask everybody that says things like, bump stocks don't matter. Or, I don't have an AR-15, I don't care. Because here's what they're doing now. I was out in Shelburne Falls recently for a mass fish and wildlife listening session on coyote hunting. Okay? They had some coyote hunting contests down the Cape. And the conversations that happened among the animal rights people that stood up were pretty shocking. They actually scared me. They were referring to these coyote hunting contests as coyote killing contests, and saying it was immoral to have killing contests. I did speak after they were all done at the end, and I explained to them a simple truth. When I was a young boy, I would come home from fishing empty-handed. My older brothers would say, "I thought you went fishing." Yes, I did go fishing. But if it was guaranteed, it would be called catching. And if you went hunting, I didn't get a bear this week. If I was guaranteed that I went to Canada to hunt bear and I was going to always get one, we wouldn't call it hunting. We'd call it killing. But the reason that these people who hate our sports do this is because they want everyone to think that we're murderous psychopaths out for our blood sport. Nothing's further from the truth. Every hunter I know respects the animals. One guy I was hunting with is an indigenous person. He says a prayer after he takes a bear. He thanks his gods, his spirits, for the opportunity, and he thanks that animal for giving its life so that he could harvest it. This is what's going on. If they win against coyote hunters, if they win against bump stocks and ARs, and the scary part is this is still coming. If the pheasant hunters and the deer hunters and everybody doesn't show up to support the coyote hunters, you're next. You're absolutely next. You know, in Oregon, they banned fishing derbies. I'm not kidding you. You can't have fishing derbies in Oregon anymore because of the lefties.
Fishing killing.
And if you don't think there's people in Massachusetts that want to do the same thing here, you're not thinking. So, most recently in the Boston Globe, and I don't know if you folks saw this, an organization who calls themselves the Falmouth for Gun Safety wrote a letter to the editor. Richard Dubé from Falmouth for Gun Safety wrote a letter that said, "Our organization, the Falmouth Gun Safety Coalition, is working to achieve legislation that will ban the semi-automatic mechanism in any gun sold or owned in Massachusetts." These are weapons that were designed for military and law enforcement purposes only, and not for the general public. Revolvers, lever action, pump guns, and bolt action guns cover the full spectrum of civilian needs, whether they are hunting, personal protection, or home protection. The semi-automatic mechanism for guns has no place in civilian hands. This was just a week ago. Someone from down that way, Paul Adams, needs to write a response to Falmouth for Gun Safety. I will help you write it, but it's best if it comes from someone in that area. It could be Falmouth for Freedom and Liberty, wants to respond to Richard Dubé and tell the truth. The truth isn't hate speech. It's simply the truth. But this has been their goal since the mid-1970s. I forget the year, maybe Kirk can help me with this, when a ballot referendum here in Massachusetts was put forth, I think it was called Question 5, to ban civilian handgun ownership. Thankfully, back in 1975, 1978, it failed. By not fighting back, gun owners and hunters have allowed themselves to be painted as heartless, soulless, uncaring criminals, and even killers who have immoral killing contests. Just tweet that you like the wall being built and that you are a member of the NRA, and you could lose your job like the chief of police at Hampshire College. This is what we're up against. Thrown out like he was a common criminal for exercising his First Amendment rights and sharing his opinion. The media has successfully made gun owners into a bunch of criminals. Just look at all the mass shootings they'll say, while they totally ignore the fact that the young men who were fatherless conducted 26 out of the 27 biggest mass shootings. They don't want to talk about the fatherless problem. They want to blame it on the gun. Browse the political landscape in California. We heard about this earlier today. If you don't think Democratic media strategy has been successful, you now have to go through a background check to buy ammo in California. Isn't this, I don't know if this doesn't alarm you, but it scares the hell out of me. Even among our ranks of hunters, gun owners, we have people that some refer to as FUDs, that say things like bump stocks are stupid. Well, when they come for your stuff, those bump stock guys have left the state or aren't going to support you. Bump stocks might be stupid, but it's our freedoms. If they can label a piece of plastic as a machine gun, and it can be done not by legislation, but by a bureaucrat, we're in trouble. Our liberty and freedom are in danger. This is why gun owners must see to it that politicians that vote against their rights during the legislative season have to be held accountable during the election season. People need to call out guys like Ann Goby and Senator Michael Moore from this district and tell them, your name shouldn't be on that shirt like you support hunters, like you support gun owners, because you voted for bump stock ban, you voted for the ERPO laws, and what have you done in the last 10 years? You guys file bills for Sunday hunting, and then that's all they do. They don't work to get these bills passed. You tell them, you're not getting my support because you don't work to get these bills passed anymore. You don't deserve my vote. Anyone here in the audience can file a bill. It's easy to do. I could file a bill. Does that mean I'm a great guy? No. It's not until you work hard to get that bill passed that you actually deserve donations, support, and a vote. The evil that has been done is threatening to completely disarm us. If you need a background check for ammo, like they said, they don't have to control the guns, control the ammo. For non-lawmakers like an attorney general, and now they're spreading out to doctors. They opened up an MGH gun violence prevention study at Mass General Hospital that I think is funded to the tune of $600 million. So now we're going to have doctors who are 64 times more likely to kill you than a gun. Tell us what guns we can have and what's wrong with us, why we shouldn't have guns. How about they get a little doctor control out there and start getting rid of these doctors that make mistakes and kill people? Come on. This is wrong. This suits their political agenda to allow doctors and AGs to do this, but it's just completely wrong. Gun owners should get all their cards on the table right now. I think the anti-liberty crowd is in trouble. When you look at the fact that people who I know who are pro-choice are now disgusted by what's going on in New York, in Massachusetts, saying, I'm pro-choice, but what they're doing now, wanting to terminate a 9-month full-term baby, is just wrong. Those are the people who are ripe to support good candidates that believe in liberty for the unborn, that believe in liberty for our gun rights, that believe in freedom. You got to explain to them what freedom is. And if we can't go hard against an evil we all suspect is existential, they're pitiable custodians of our representative liberty and freedom heritage in our Constitution. Prove me right or prove me wrong, gun owners, but for God's sakes, prove something. Prove you are made of something better than the anti-liberty crowd. Let's go beyond this rally and do things. We got Milena who's going to run. We've got Stephen Hall. I wish he was here. I believe he's planning to run again in that district. He is. Good. We've got Jay McMahon who's going to run again. If you don't know who Jay McMahon is, you don't know his name, you haven't been paying attention.
Oh, absolutely. You're right.
So,
Oh, Jay.
just a few more notes.
Very well.
Mass gun rights has been kind of quiet for a while because we became sustainable. I know, sustainable is an awful word. But what we did was we were paying over $400 a month for our email list because it had over 20,000 names in it. And for the companies that maintain these email lists, they charge big money. So we spent time reworking all our infrastructure. So now our expenses for everything are about $50 a month. Because we saw no reason we should be giving corporations who probably don't like our cause and could one day say, we can't maintain your email list anymore because it's pro-gun, and kick us off, that we better become sustainable and take care of be self-reliant and sustainable. So we brought our costs down to $50 a month to run the site. We can send out 250,000 emails and it doesn't cost us any more. You can have 250,000 members. Get all your friends to sign up, okay? Our new website is massgunrights.org. We're giving away free stickers. If you go there, massgunrights.org/sticker, and you put in the code free sticker. We have a gun giveaway. Anybody like guns? Yeah! All right, we're giving away a SIG P365. Anybody heard of that new gun? People are having a hard times getting their hands on one. Go to massgunrights.org/gun-giveaway. If you can chip in a couple bucks as a voluntary donation, that would be great. Okay? But a SIG P365, free. You don't have to donate anything. If you can, it helps our cause. We appreciate it. And the other things we have to worry about now. They're going to come after the semi-autos now that they get the Boston Globe editorial supporting that. They're coming after 50 cals. They want to ban 50 cals and they want to ban gun parts. That's what the scuttlebutt is up on Beacon Hill. Okay? Got to ask myself this. If a 50 cal is banned, will those full auto 50 cals that they have in black vans owned by the Massachusetts State Police be destroyed? Or will we just be living in more of a police state? I don't have a 50 cal. I can't afford a 50 cal. But am I against banning them? Yes, 100%. Because when only the police and the military have guns, you're living in a police state.
Right.
Wake up.
Yep.
They're coming after them. They filed this bill before. All we need is a few guys that got money who believe in liberty to have a couple of 50 cals, and they're never going to pull anything. The threat of us having equal firepower is enough to protect our liberty and freedom. Think about this. The Virginia Beach shooting, which I just read you the op-ed about, was 750 yards from a police station. We shouldn't own guns. But wait, how long does it take to go 750 yards when a shooting begins? The police there didn't arrive for somewhere around 10 minutes.
Wow.
As Jared says, always carry a gun.
Absolutely.
750 yards from a police station, 9 injured, 1 killed. In a gun-free zone. How wrong is that? And that, you know, we need more people to step up, to become volunteers like Craig, to become candidates like Stephen and Milena. That's how we turn this stuff around. It's great that we get together and we talk about the threats, but if we all go home from here and forget that we need to take action, that we need to get off the couch and do things, whether it's to volunteer, donate, write a letter to the editor, find their friend who's a good candidate for office, encourage them to run. Their friend is pro 2A, of course. That's my message. Now is the time. We have to fight to protect our rights.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Chris.
Excellent. So there's one of the guys. I want you to be hitting his booth, signing up for that email list. We have got to stay in communication with each other, and Chris is getting it done here in the state. No compromise. He's earned my trust and respect in the things that he does. So please join me in supporting him. All right, a couple of other quick announcements. This event from day one has been one of those events where when you folks clear out of here at the end of the day, there's barely a crumb on the ground. All right, this isn't one of those, the progressive get-togethers. They come out there, the environmentalists nonetheless, and they show up in force, they hoot and they holler and they leave, and the place looks like a freaking landfill.
Yep.
All right, our people aren't like that. So today, I just asked that, when you go, make sure you pick up after yourself. I know I don't have to say this, but, we really like the new venue here. All right, the guys at Century Sportsman's Club, they've been hard at work here for a while now. I've been going to meetings here for months. Their members have been working real hard. And, we like to think that maybe if things go well and we clear out of here, the place is cleaned up, not a wreck, that they might just want to have us back again. So please, just keep the place clean. Remember that as we're leaving today. And definitely thank those guys at the club. Another thing, in just a minute, you are going to have a real treat. Boy, the Queen of the Constitution is going to be up here to talk to you folks, so please have your cameras and everything charged up and ready. But before we get Krisanne up, I'd like to give a little notoriety and a shout out to someone who very quickly became a very dear friend of mine and of a lot of people. A mountain of a man. This guy was like he's two of me. But for someone who looks like a professional wrestler, he was such a teddy bear. He really was. His name is Matt Brown. He's been out to the last few rallies. He's usually part of the security team. Those of you that went through registration last year probably saw this big mountain of a man standing there behind the registry table. That was Matt. And, no matter what, if there was an event like this going on, it's not just this event, all right? It's not just the Flag Day rally. It was many Patriot events. This guy would pull out all the stops. He would somehow, some way get himself out to that event. Had no idea where he was going to stay sometimes after he got there, but he knew he was going to be there. He was going to be support. His name's Matt Brown, and sadly, he's not with us anymore. He passed away last year, and he's still with us. He's watching us here today. I absolutely am sure of it. He's been a dear friend to a lot of people, including me. A real stand-up guy and someone that we should be modeling ourselves after. And, for someone as quiet as he was, a very quiet gentleman, but he speaks volumes at the same time. He's just one of those people. Being in his presence is a real honor and a privilege. So I'd like everyone to keep our friend Matt Brown in your thoughts and prayers, as we miss him greatly. And he's will always be with us. I feel him today. So thank you to Matt Brown. He wore this patch proudly, and he's been a dear friend of what we do. And we owe him a lot, and he's enriched my life just knowing him. So thank you to Matt. Our next speaker, I know a lot of people came out, and I started seeing the ticket orders coming in as soon as I announced that the Queen of the Constitution, Ms. Krisanne Hall, had accepted our invitation to come out and talk to you folks today. So that is who is going to be taking the podium next. So have your cameras ready. You're really in for a treat right now. So I'd like, without further ado, is bring Krisanne Hall from Liberty First University. Let's give it up.
Okay, so I am not a lecturer. I am a teacher. So I want everybody right now to raise your pocket constitutions up in the air, please, because you're going to be learning with me. See, I'm used to having some kind of a screen with a PowerPoint so we can go over all this together. So if you have your pocket constitutions, raise them up in the air. All right, if you don't have your pocket constitution, hold your cell phone up in the air, because I'm serious here. We're going to do some learning today. We're going to do something different than what everybody has done here before. We're going to learn together. I'm going to show you some things, and through education comes power. Okay? People always say knowledge is power, but that's not true. Knowledge is not power until it is activated, and until we actually accept the truth. And I don't mean just me throwing ideas at you, because you see, if I'm just here to give you statements and give you ideas, can you just admit to me that by the time you get out to the parking lot, you're going to have forgotten about 75% of what I'm saying? So what I want to do is I want to give you something that lasts, something that becomes motivation, something that will drive you to activation, an activation that's more than just being a member of a group, more than just being a keyboard warrior, more than just being somebody who emails your representative every now and again, or tweets, or posts, or whatever. We are creeping into a time and day where the complacency in which we operate is going to drive us into a depth of despotism that will be nearly impossible for us to peacefully escape. I just want you to know, those who gave us America gave us amazing, wonderful things. Everybody agree? But the greatest gift that they gave to us was the opportunity to self-govern. You see, they didn't just declare independence from Great Britain. They declared independence from kings and rulers forever. And one of the greatest problems that we have in American politics today is not the President of the United States, is not your congressman. Samuel Adams said, "No people will tamely surrender their liberties nor be easily subdued when knowledge is diffused and virtue is preserved." He said, but on the contrary, when the people become universally ignorant and debauched in their manners, they will sink underneath their own weight without the aid of foreign invaders. I want to tell you, in my experience in history, in learning history, and seeing what's happening in government today, the greatest challenge that we have in politics today is the American society constantly seeking a political savior. Donald Trump cannot fix what's wrong with America today. Nor do you want Donald Trump to fix what's wrong with America today. For Donald Trump to fix what's wrong with America today, Donald Trump would have to cease being a president and start being a king. And that is quintessentially the opposite of who we are. We have to stop searching for people who will make the difference and start accepting that responsibility upon ourselves. Stop looking for George Washington to return. Stop yearning for Thomas Jefferson or James Madison to come back and teach our children, and be the founders of our future. You have the same power they had. You have the same authority they had. And if you're simply honest with yourself, every liberty-loving American carries the same spirit that they had. You just have to activate it. And I believe that that activation can only come through knowing the truth. A commodity that's a little hard to come by in America today. So what I want to talk to you about today, I know you heard a couple of speakers talk about this today. We have activists that talk about this today. We have politicians who talk about this today. But I want to teach you something I think that we are not fighting enough. And I believe it's because we don't have the depth and understanding necessary to really become passionate about this. I want to talk to you today about red flag laws. Now, I know in this crowd, when I was praying about what to teach you today, because I have Liberty First University. I've been traveling the country for 9 years. In those 9 years, I have averaged 265 classes in over 22 states every single year. I have a lot of things, different things that I teach to a lot of different people on a lot of different occasions. So when I was praying today about what to bring to you, I thought to myself, these people do not need an education on the Second Amendment. Of all the people that I address, if anybody's going to have a firm foundation on the understanding of what shall not be infringed means, these people have that. But what we need to understand is the intricacy and intimacy of all of our rights. How they are intertwined, how they are entangled upon each other, how they are incumbent upon each other for their own existence. Let me give you an example. Just a little pop quiz that I like to give as I go around and teach. So I know I told you to get your pocket constitutions out, but at this point in time, close them. No cheating on your cell phones, because I'm going to give you a pop quiz. The First Amendment contains 5 liberties. To yourself, not out loud, don't give your neighbor the answer. Name all 5 liberties found in the First Amendment. Now, I told you I've been doing this for 9 years. I also know that since I've been doing this, there have been national polls that given any given crowd, at best, less than 2% of the people will be able to name all 5. So we love the Second Amendment. We love our right to keep and bear arms. But what about the others? You see, if you do not know what your rights are, how do you know they're not already gone? If you cannot define your rights, how are you going to defend them? And here's the thing. Your right to freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of press, the right to peaceably assemble, the right to petition the government for a redress of your grievances is incumbent upon your right to keep and bear arms, and your right to keep and bear arms must also have your right to freely communicate. How many of you heard of the Weaver problem in Ruby Ridge? Right? You remember Ruby Ridge?
Yeah.
How many of you remember Bundy Ranch?
Yeah.
Can I tell you from a constitutional property rights perspective, those two situations were very, very similar. Very similar, but they had very different endings. Why? Not because of the right to keep and bear arms. The Weaver family had arms. Bundy Ranch had arms. Why were they different? Why did they end differently? Because at the Weaver household, they didn't have cell phones. They didn't have social media. They did not have a way to communicate their plight with the outside world and bring in those of like mind, with like passion and like knowledge to defend them. Your right to keep and bear arms is essential. But let me tell you what, if you don't have the right to freedom of speech, the right to freedom of press, the right to petition the government, you don't have a right to peaceably assemble, it is you alone with your gun against the king. And you lose. The power in the right to keep and bear arms is the power to keep and bear them together as a community. And that's the sole purpose of community. The only reason community exists, the Declaration of Independence tells us, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, and that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just power from the consent of the governed. There is only one reason for organized society we call government to exist, and that is for the people to come together in a unified body to secure each other's rights. But when we allow When we, as Samuel Adams says, when we tamely suffer a lawless attack upon our liberty, we actually encourage it. When we diminish the necessity of one right or the other, and we lift one up and ignore the other, we are actually bringing about the destruction of them all. Can you have freedom of speech without freedom of press?
No.
Can you have freedom of speech without the right to peaceably assemble? If you don't have the right to complain to your government, where is your freedom of speech? Do you have a freedom of religion if you don't have the freedom of speech or freedom of press? Who's going to print your Bibles if it's now illegal? You see, when one falls, they all fall. And that's why the Bill of Rights exists in the manner it does. The entire purpose of the Bill of Rights is not to control government, because paper and ink does not control government. Our framers referred to them as parchment barriers. The only thing that controls government are an educated people who are devoted and in love with the posterity and liberty. But how can we love something we do not know? How can you have an affinity, an attachment for something you do not know exists? I want to show you about these red flag laws and why it's more than just a Second Amendment issue. Now, you have your pocket constitutions. How many of you have pocket Massachusetts constitutions? This is your state. Within your state, your constitution is just as important, if not more so, than the U.S. Constitution. You ought to know where the essential protections of your liberty exist within your own state constitution. Can I just admit to you that I think what we have now today is we've been so deceived and so distracted by the circus of Washington, D.C., that it has caused us to turn our attention and our minds away from the things that are truly important and the placement of our true power. Do you know, if we were truly in love with our liberty and truly educated at the same time, a presidential election would be, in the order of importance, lower than the election of your sheriff. Because in your county, your sheriff has more power and more control than the President of the United States. He has more power and more control than your state legislator and your governor. If we were honest about where our liberty and our power really exists, we wouldn't be so fawning over U.S. representatives, and we would be visiting our state houses instead. We wouldn't send another dime to a presidential election. We wouldn't send another dime to a national election. We would send all of our resources and all of our time, state and local, because that's where we make changes. So I want to talk to you today about red flag laws, both national and local. Because you know there's a push, national too. But you know you already have red flag laws here. And I think that the reason these red flag laws so easily seeped into our societies is because the people have been led down a primrose path and have been deceived into believing that laws stop crimes. And that it's just really, a Second Amendment issue. It's just a small regulation on your ability to keep and bear arms. If we understood how big it actually was, how all-encompassing of multiple divisions of rights, we wouldn't be sitting here at a gun rally today. We would be occupying your Capitol right now until something was changed. So let me show you. If you don't have a Massachusetts Constitution, I would encourage you to follow along on your cell phone because it is online. And I want you to see these words, not just with your hearing mind, but with your seeing mind as well. Now, when we talk about rights, we should begin with rights. I have a video on my YouTube channel called Rights versus Benefits, because it's a serious point of confusion in America, the difference between rights and benefits. So I want to establish for you today this foundation of rights. And I want you to make me a promise. From this day forward, these words will never escape your lips again. Are you ready?
Ready.
Second Amendment right. I don't want you to ever say those words again, because what you speak out of your mouth affects your mind. And every time we say Second Amendment right, we somehow convince our mind and our spirit that our right to keep and bear arms comes from a document benefited to us by those in government. Your right to keep and bear arms does not come from the Constitution. It does not come from a government document. It doesn't come from any document at all. Your right to keep and bear arms emanates from the first law of nature, commonly known as the duty of self-preservation. Samuel Adams wrote in 1772, among the natural rights of the colonists are these: first, a right to life; secondly, to liberty; thirdly, to property; together, number 4, your right. To get together with the right to support and defend them in the best manner they can. He says these are the evident branches of, rather than the deductions from, the duty of self-preservation, commonly called the first law of nature. Your right to keep and bear arms comes from God by the nature of your creation and your duty to preserve your life to the glory of God. But Krisanne, I don't believe in God. Does that mean my right does not come from God? No, it does not. But if you don't believe in God, you have to admit that your rights do not come from government. Because if they come from government, they are no longer rights, they are privileges. You must admit, even the unbeliever must admit, that there is a higher power that bestows on every living creature the right to breathe and the right to protect that breath. Because the bottom line is, if you don't have the right to protect your own breath, you are a slave. The property of another, the one who protects you and assigns the value for your body. This is why the Second Amendment reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of the free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The Second Amendment doesn't emanate from the Bill of Rights. The Second Amendment originates in natural law. Your duty to live and your right to protect that life. You have in your Massachusetts Constitution, all people, I'm reading from your Massachusetts Constitution right now, all people are born free and equal and have certain natural, essential, and inalienable rights, among which may be reckoned the right of enjoying and defending their lives and liberties. Your Massachusetts Constitution recognizes that your right to keep and bear arms emanates from natural law. Not only does it say that you have the right to defend your life and your liberty, you have the right, a natural, essential, inalienable right to acquire, possess, and protect your property. And in that it says, you have a right, natural, essential, and inalienable, in seeking and obtaining your own safety. See, it's not talking about the right that the police officer has on your behalf. It's not talking about the right that the governor has on your behalf. It's talking about the right that you have. Essential, natural, inalienable. James Madison wrote in 1792 an essay called Property, in which he defined the term property. He says, this term in its particular application means that dominion which one man claims and exercises over the external things of the world in exclusion of every other individual. That's a no-brainer, right? So, in layman's terms, Madison is just simply saying what you call your property is your stuff. Your car, your cell phone, your house. Everybody knows that. But he goes on to say, in a larger and juster meaning of this word property, it embraces everything to which a man may attach a value and have a right. James Madison, the man we refer to as the father of the Constitution, is trying to explain to us that our rights are more than ideas. They're more than thoughts and desires. Our rights are actual property. And listen to what he says. You have a property very dear to you in the safety and liberty of your person. Can I just let that sort of seep in a little bit? If you were to ask your friends, okay, let's have a little fun thing. I'm going to show you the Second Amendment. I want you to identify the property issues within the Second Amendment. And I guarantee you, very quickly, they'll go, oh, the right to keep and bear arms. Arms, because, guns are property. That's the property issue. James Madison would agree, but he would say, yes, you're missing the most important part. The right itself is property. So let me ask you this question. Let's just say 3 individuals in black suits and ties and a clipboard come to your house. And they say to you, we want to show you the legal survey of your property boundaries. Now, we recognize that when you bought this property, the boundaries were laid out. Everybody has a legal survey of their property. We understand that you own this property. But we're looking at this survey of your property and we're realizing that, this survey was done 20, 30 years ago. And you have to admit, life has changed a lot in the last 30 years. So in order to keep up with the changing times, here's what we want to suggest to you. What we're going to do is we're going to reinterpret the boundary lines of your property in towards your home just 2 feet. We're not actually changing the legal boundaries. They will still say legally in your property appraiser's office, these are your boundaries. But we're going to reinterpret them in 2 feet on all sides. Now don't worry, we're not discriminating against you because we're going to do this for everybody. And what I need you to see, because we're doing this for everybody, you have to understand the benefit of this means we're going to have a 4-foot buffer between everybody's property so we can provide you with greater security and greater services. How many of you are going to sign on the dotted line?
Hey, do I get to pay taxes on those 2 feet?
Ah, yeah, you sure do. How many of you might be tempted to stand on the front porch and go, no thank you, leave my property?
Yeah. Yeah.
So here's what James Madison is trying to tell you. If you are willing to take and defend the physical property upon which your grass grows to that extent, why would you not take the same passion to your right to freedom of speech, to the property of your freedom of press, to the property in your right to keep and bear arms, as they're always trying to say, we're not amending this amendment, we're just going to reinterpret it a little bit for the benefit of everyone else. You see, I think we fail to see the magnitude of what is happening today because we have failed to teach the principles for a very long time. Can I mention to you, your property is an essential right. Your property is a natural right. Your property and the right to secure that property is an inalienable right, which is why the Fourth Amendment reads, once again, the right of the people, not the right of the government. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects. You see, that word effects is the catch-all. It's everything that Madison was talking about. The effects is everything that you put value in. It's everything that you have a right to. And you are to be secure against unreasonable searches and seizures. Now what's interesting is because even in law school we don't actually study the Constitution anymore. Does that shock anybody? Lawyers haven't learned the Constitution in law school for decades. What we learn is what other people write about the Constitution. And quite often, it's more like what other people wrote about other people who wrote about the other things that other people wrote.
Yep.
It's like that game when we were kids called telephone, where you whisper in somebody's ear, and then by the time it gets back to you, it doesn't even closely resemble what you said. That's what's happened to our Constitution. Back in ancient days, kings used to make it illegal to read and write. King William I, the Conqueror, made the legal language of England French. It was illegal to speak anything but French in England. Why? Because the people couldn't understand French. They couldn't understand the laws, so they couldn't object. That is the deception America is under today. We have been deceived into believing that the Constitution is too difficult to understand. So we have to leave it to politicians and professors and pundits. All the while, their goal is to keep us enslaved, docile, and obedient. Those people will tell you that the Fourth Amendment is very clear. You are not free from all searches and seizures. You're only free from unreasonable ones. But there's a problem, my dear America. How do we define what is reasonable? And they spent decades and billions of dollars in law school brains to come up with a definition of reasonableness. You may not believe me, but this is actually the legal standard of what is reasonable. A reasonable search and seizure is something that some reasonable person would find reasonable under reasonable circumstances. That is a legal definition. Yeah, my husband likes to say you gotta go to college to get that stupid. But what we fail to recognize is that the Fourth Amendment already tells us what is reasonable, because it doesn't stop right after the word shall not be violated. It says no warrant shall issue but based upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, particularly describing the place to be seized, the place to be searched, and the persons or things to be seized. A reasonable search and seizure is one that completes 5 elements. And the language of the Fourth Amendment proves that. No warrant, probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, particularly describing the place to be searched, and the persons or things to be seized. That word "and" means in order to have a reasonable search and seizure, all 5 elements must be present at the same time. Not 4 out of 5, not 4.5 out of 5, all 5. By the definition established by our drafters of the Constitution, everything beyond that is an unreasonable search and seizure. And yet we have somehow allowed the government to rewrite the Constitution without an amendment and invent exceptions like except in national security, except in matters of exigent circumstances, except in the war on drugs. Do you know Article 16 of the Massachusetts Constitution says every subject has a right to be secure from all unreasonable searches and seizures? The same terms apply here in the state of Massachusetts as they do on the federal level. Now, don't think Krisanne has wandered off. She said she's going to be talking about red flag laws, but I'm establishing to you the foundation of our rights. We have a right to keep and bear arms because we are property rights in securing our bodies and our lives and our property. We have a right to be secure in our property, both on federal and state levels. We cannot tolerate unreasonable searches and seizures. But do you not also know you have a right to not be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law? That's the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Nor shall any person be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. If you are being deprived of your property outside the rules of due process, that is a violation of your rights. It is a violation of the supreme law of the land. You have the Sixth Amendment, which says that you are innocent until proven guilty. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. Article 16 of the Massachusetts Constitution says, you are innocent until proven guilty. No subject shall be arrested or imprisoned or despoiled or deprived of his property, or be deprived of his life, liberty, or estate, but by the judgment of his peers or the judgment of the law. Not just simply because they write a law can they seize your property. That's not what this is saying. It is saying that you have a right to a trial to be judged under the law. That way, the lawyers who write the laws don't become the legislators, the enforcers, and the executors at the same time. You have a right to be proven innocent. You are innocent until proven guilty by both federal and national standards and state standards. Give me just 1 second. In Madison's essay, Property, I want you to listen very closely to the warning that he gives. This is not a just government, nor is property secure under it, where the property which a man has in his personal safety and personal liberty is violated by arbitrary seizures of one class of citizens for the service of the rest. He says a magistrate using his warrants to a press gang would be in its proper function in Turkey or Indostan, and they are the examples of the most complete despotism. When your property is taken by arbitrary terms, James Madison says, you have a despotic government. What about the 8th Amendment? Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments. The Massachusetts Constitution contains the same provision in Article 26. No magistrate or court of law shall demand excessive bail or sureties, impose excessive fines, or inflict cruel and unusual punishment. In the 7th Amendment, it says, in suits at common law, where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of a trial by jury shall be preserved. In the Massachusetts Constitution, under Article 15, it says, in all controversies concerning property and in all suits between two or more parties, the parties have a right to a trial by jury. I just showed you your rights. Essential, natural, inalienable. You have a right to defend your life, your liberty, your property. You have a right to the property itself. You have a right to be secure in that property. You have a right to a government that respects your rights and is limited by the rules of due process. Government can't take your property without due process. If they're going to take your property, you have a right to a trial by jury. You have a right to be innocent until proven guilty. And you have a right to be free from arbitrary and despotic governments. So let's look at these red flag laws. Because the red flag laws say that any family member, any romantic involvement, past or present, can you imagine your ex having the power to take your rights away? Or any law enforcement officer has the power to go to a judge, make a petition that says they feel you may be a danger to yourself or to someone else without your appearance in court, without being able to face your accusers, without the obligation of the accuser to prove your guilt, the judge now issues a pseudo warrant that authorizes the government to come and take your property on completely unsubstantiated arbitrary terms. And then you are left to stand before the government and try to prove your innocence. These red flag laws take your right to self-defense. They take your property without due process. They are an unlawful, arbitrary search and seizure. They deny you of your right to a trial. I want you to see this is a taking of your property without due process. If you're driving down the road and somebody calls the police officer from the neighboring town and hands them the tag on your plate and says, "Hey, I want you to look for this car because I think they might be speeding sometime soon." And the officer, because that's dangerous, right? You're a danger to yourself and other people when you violate the speed limit. How many people die every year because people violate traffic laws? So now the officer pulls you over because somebody thinks you might be a danger to yourself or to someone else in your vehicle, and as a defense of somebody else's accusation, they impound your car. Do you think taking and impounding your entire vehicle is an excessive fine for speeding? Why wouldn't taking your entire property of your right to self-defense, your right to property, your right to due process, having your rights violated by searches and seizures, your right to a trial, all eliminated from you, why is that not considered an excessive fine? And a cruel and unusual punishment? And as if that's not bad enough, our entire legal system has devolved to the simple Marxist principle of guilty until proven innocent. John Locke, the father of liberty, wrote, "If the innocent, honest man must quietly quit all he has for peace sake, to him who lay violent hands upon it, I desire it may be considered, what kind of peace will there be in a world which consists only for the benefit of robbers and oppressors?" If you have to violate my rights to do your job, you are the criminal, not me. And I will end with Patrick Henry. His famous "Give me liberty or give me death" speech. I think he's speaking to us today. Because why do we have these red flag laws? We are told that we need them to keep us safe. We need them for a peaceful society. Patrick Henry says this: "What is it that gentlemen ask? What is it that gentlemen wish? What would they have? Is life so dear and peace so sweet to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? You know what he's telling us? Without liberty, your life is nothing but servitude. Without liberty, your peace will become your prison. And that's why he said, forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. God bless you and thank you very much.
Thank you, Krisanne. Thank you.
Outstanding job, boy. Those mama bears never let us down, do they? Oh man, they're the best. Yep. We're gonna have every year we're gonna have an agenda with mama bears, and didn't I promise you folks? This is the spirit, the fire in our belly that we all have to have and rediscover again. You know, the kids coming out of our schools today, they're coming out hating their country, unsure what bathroom to use, and have no idea what rights are, where they come from, and what they're about to lose. And it is a fire like this that we've got to reignite in our youth. They're ripe for that. When kids get to that rebellious age, you parents out there know what I'm talking about. Let them rebel against the right things. Let them rebel against tyranny. All right, the chains of slavery, because that's what's coming their way. I got kids out there. A lot of you got kids out there right now. These little ones out here, they're not going to see the country that we did when we were growing up if we don't buckle down and get her done. Krisanne, thank you so much. Great speech. Let's hear it for Krisanne, Liberty First University. Thank you again.